going to cover the geography of India. In today's lesson, we're going to discuss the mountains of India. We're also going to talk about the waterways of India, and we're going to talk about the most famous desert of India as well. Before we begin with today's lesson, let's talk about where India is again. This is the United States. You cross the Atlantic Ocean. You cross right in between Europe and Africa, and you come right here to where India is. China's right here, India's right here, Russia, Iran, Egypt, all right here together with India. Now, the big idea that we're going to start with today is that Indian civilization first developed on the Indus River. Now, where is the Indus River? The Indus River runs on the northern border of India. It runs through Pakistan as well. So the first civilization that ever appeared in India appeared on the Indus River in the north corner of India. Mountains. There are two main types, or two main mountains that make up India as well. To the north, you got the Himalayan mountains. It makes up the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. To the west, you have the Hindu Kush. The Hindu Kush provided protection for enemies. You're also going to see the Himalayas a little bit later on in some famous battles that happened as well. So the Himalayas are not going to leave us. The Hindu Kush, it provided protection from groups that were coming from the west that tried to get into India, and the Hindu Kush basically blocked them from getting in, or made it even more difficult for them to get into India. Let's move on to the waterways and the desert. We've talked already in this unit about monsoons. We understand that monsoons are almost like a drought, a flood, and a hurricane combined, all into one. Not only does India's subcontinent have a lot of monsoons, they also have a large amount of rainfall. That kind of comes with the flooding. The civilizations arose around these seasonal rainfalls. They figured out about when they were coming, and they would migrate out, and then they would come back in. Or they would get right on the border of where the rain was coming at, and they would plant their civilization right there. Or they would build their house right there. Now, sometimes they guessed wrong, and it flooded their houses, but more times than not, they were successful at where they built their houses because they watched the rain and watched the water very carefully. There are 12 major rivers that make up India. The most famous one is the Ganges, or the Ganges River. There is also an additional 9,000 plus miles of waterways. So the waterways in the country of India is 9,000 along. The main desert that makes up the India is called the Thar Desert. It is the 7th largest desert in the world. It is 124,274 miles in the western part of India. Now, the degrees in winter. Now, this is winter. This is our December to February, December to March. 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That is freezing. Okay, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the freezing mark in a desert. Now, during our summer, when it is 88 to 95 here in North Carolina, it is 122 degrees Fahrenheit, an additional 40 degrees hotter in that desert than here in North Carolina. So, today we have talked about the geography of India. We have talked about the main mountains, the Himalayas, the Hindu Kush. We have talked about the waters, that there's a lot of rainfall, that people learn how to build their houses and farm around the heavy rainfall. There's 12 additional rivers, and there's 9,000 pieces of waterway. We also talked about the Thar Desert, 7th largest desert in the world. And we talked about that the earliest civilizations in India were placed or were built around the Indus River. This is the geography of India for today.